For today's review, we are looking at the Transformers Studio Series Voyager class Cheetor from the Rise of the Beast movie. And before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging that he comes in. And of course, it is the standard Voyager box that you see with the Studio Series line. You do have this little window cut right here where you can see the figure when it was once inside the packaging. You have a CGI render of Cheetor in his cheetah form. This is number 98 in the Studio Series line, and you also have the movie logo up here as well as the top of the box. And as you can see, I did find this at Ross for 20 bucks, which is not a bad deal. And on this side of the packaging, you have a CGI render of Cheetor in his robot form, looking pretty cool. And on the other side, you have what I like to call the indicator. If you do keep the packaging or you're an inbox collector and you want to store these boxes on your shelf like books, this is a good way to keep track of what figures you have in this line and what figures you don't have, because they're all numbered in order. And on the back side, you have a render of Cheetor in his robot mode as well as his cheetah form. So this requires 24 steps to transform from robot mode to his alt mode. And of course, Studio Series, they do come with the backdrop. So let's take a quick look at that. Here is the backdrop. It of course is the jungles of Peru, where the Autobots encounter the Beast War characters. Pretty cool little backdrop. Not something that I would use because it does take up a lot of room. So usually I have these backdrops stored in the packaging since I keep the boxes. And this is what Cheetor looks like in his alt mode displayed on this little backdrop. So there it is. And now let's move on to the accessories that are included with this figure. So as you can see, he comes with these two weapons, which he can either use as a single spear or he can dual wield them as two separate weapons. And the cool part about this is that you can actually store these on his back, either in robot mode and also in this cheetah mode. So when you store it on his back like this, you can actually treat these like maybe they're like guns or something when he's fighting in this form. Like, that's a possibility that you can do. And I'm going to take these off because they are really easy to put on. They are connected to this little slot here by this tab, as you can see right there, and they stay on pretty tightly, so that's a good thing. And I'm going to take these off just to show them better. And here you have these two accessories. They are nicely sculpted in details, but when it comes to paint, I feel like they could have been painted a little bit better here because, you know, it's all the same color and it's just very glossy looking, but it is what it is, right? And you can also do this. So if you connect this, there you go. You got one long weapon right there for him to use. So he has a pointy part on the top as well as the bottom. Pretty freaking cool. So there is the accessory that he comes with, and that's pretty much all he has. And now let's talk about the aesthetics of his cheetah form first. Usually I always talk about the robot mode, right, for the last two reviews, but for this one I kind of want to change it up. We'll start with his alt form, and then we'll work our way to his robot mode. So with his alt form here, I think this is a good representation of what a cheetah looks like if it was pretty much a robotic cybernetic being. You can see all these exposed parts here to show that it's not a organic cheetah. This is a robot. Cheetor in the cartoons is a yellow color, right? Like, that's what he always looked like. He had the yellow and the blue. So this live action depiction of him is very different in terms of the color palette. I think it's fine. I think it works for live action in this case. It's not a bad looking color choice, but you know, maybe some people don't like this, but it is what it is. Now, in terms of his face sculpt here, I think they did a pretty good job with this cheetah face sculpt, right? You do have the green eyes, you have the nose, you have his little ears right here, and you have the little dotted patterns that are on the top of his head, and also on the back part of his torso part here, right? So that's pretty cool that there's stuff like that. You also have his tail, which is very robotic looking, right? With all these details and textures that are sculpted. And yeah, it works for an alt mode. Now, the cool thing about this head sculpt is that you also have his mouth, which is pretty nice because, you know, having a mouth that can move also gives this alt form some sort of aesthetic. Now, the only downside is that it is not painted inside, so there are details that are just looking really, plain and ugly without being painted. It would have been nice if those teeth were painted with some silver, so you can tell that there is a contrast with his mouth. Now, in terms of the articulation for his alt mode, it is decent. You can get him into like some running poses if you move his legs. Like, for example, his front legs, they can move like this. You cannot spread them outward because of the fact that these shoulder parts right here, they are connected to his neck. They're meant to be connected like this so everything stays in place. Now, for his back legs, you can spread them out like that. You can also move them out like this. Now, it will push up this back part right here where his tail is. So you don't want to do that, but you can move his legs a little bit, and you can also give him some sort of running sort of stance here with his legs. So you can get him into like some sort of jumping pose or some really fast running pose, like he's going to jump up on his enemy. So there is a little bit of like good articulation here, even in his alt mode, for some of those type of action if you want him to do that, right? So that's pretty cool. And that's pretty much it for his alt mode. There's not really much else I can really talk about here. It works. It's fine. It looks great. But, his robot mode is what we want to see. So, I am going to show how to transform him into his robot mode to the best that I can. So, the first thing that you want to do is you want to unhook this head sculpt. You want to do this in a way where you just pull it open like that. Oh, one last thing I forgot to show with the articulation. His head sculpt can rotate, as you can see right there, but there's no neck joint for this to like move up and down. So you can't even have him looking down if you wanted to. So just want to point that out. I almost forgot that. Okay, going back to the transformation step. You want to pull the arms this way like this, right? Space them out like that. And then now what you're going to do is you are going to untab this back part right here, as you can see. Do the same thing for this front part where his robot head sculpt is. And now it's time to put the cheetah head sculpt away. So you're going to do that. You're going to fold all that in. And then now it's going to look like this. And then you're going to do this, which will bring his robot head sculpt outward. Very simple. This guy's transformation is not like the hardest. All you got to do now is just push this part in this way and then rotate his hands. Do the same thing on this side. Push this part inward like this to the side and then do the same thing. Now his hands are done. And then the next step is to work on his legs. For his legs, what you're going to do here is you're going to take this joint right here, untab it, and then this is going to get moved down because there's a double hinge in there. You're going to move this back down to the bottom of his legs. And then from there, you are going to rotate this to the front side. And then you're going to pretty much position it. Let me see if I can fix this. Right. You're going to move this part right here. Do you see the little tab? Let me try to show this. You see that tab right there? So there's a little port that it goes into. You have to like connect this to that and then it'll stay in place. So you just got to do this. There you go. So do the same thing for the other side as well. Untab this side right here. Move this downward. Do the same thing. Line it up with this joint. Connect it. And then rotate this facing forward so you have his kneecaps facing forward this way. And then now his feet and his legs are done. And then for the back side here, what you're going to do with his tail is that you are going to move this joint because it's it has like two different movements here. All you are going to do is just do this, and that will just go on his back. And that is pretty much how you transform Cheetor from his cheetah mode into his robot mode. And for his robot mode, it is very simple looking, but I do like the details that are present on him. As you can see, like for example, his head sculpt looks pretty cool. He has the green eyes. He has this sort of mouth guard that's covering his mouth, right? I don't really know if he actually has a mouth inside because, the downside about this movie, as much as this movie was like an enjoyable action movie because some of the action scenes were pretty fun, you didn't really see them in their robot modes too much when it comes to the Beast War characters. They were mainly in their animal forms like throughout the entire movie until like the final battle when, Optimus Prime was like, "It's time to maximize," or wait, is that what he said? Something along those lines. And then they transform into their robot modes, and then that's it. You see them for like a split second in their robot mode fighting all these like Scorponok characters, and it's just like you don't even get a good glance at their robot mode because of how fast paced everything is. I don't like action when it's like super fast paced and you can't see the design of the character, especially when it's like characters that are newly introduced in the franchise, right? Like we never seen the Beast Wars in live action before. So these characters are like the first time they've ever made their appearance in live action movie. And then the fact that, they make the action sequence so fast paced and you barely can even see a little bit of their robot forms, it is kind of disappointing. Now, in terms of this figure here and comparing it to his CGI render that is on the box, because this is like the only thing we have of a good look here, I would say it's, pretty close to this. It's not exactly, the same as this, of course, but I think they did a pretty decent job with this robot form for capturing what he looks like in robot mode. Now, I do like all these old details that are also here, like his shoulders. You have all these metallic parts, right? Same thing on this side. You have these little piston stuff right here, like these inner joints that are connecting his arm to his hand, to his shoulders, right? All that. And then, of course, he has an insignia in the middle, which is pretty good. And then down here by the legs, you do have some details, right? Most of it is pretty much just like covered up in all these like armor parts on his design. And I think that's probably one of the coolest things about this robot mode is the fact that everything is pretty much like well kept in place. Like there's no crazy exposed ugly jointed area on here, which is surprising. And also this is something that I do want to talk about that I did not mention even in my last review with Soundwave, is that so far these three figures that I've looked at in total here, they have had a pretty good sort of like back part, right? Like there's no backpack of any kind. There's no crazy thing sticking out where it's like, oh, they don't have room, so it has to stick out on the back. Like at most his tail is like the only thing here, but like that's pretty much his tail. His back part is pretty clean. It's pretty like nice looking. It's not like a backpack of any kind. So that is pretty much everything I have to say for the aesthetics of this guy. There is not a whole lot else that I can really point out. He's nicely painted. He looks pretty good. And let's talk about his articulation in his robot mode. So let's start with his head sculpt. He can look up a little bit, which is not too bad. He can't look down because he's going to run into that part of his neck. He can turn his head left and right. He can tilt his head side to side. So that's pretty good. So head sculpt articulation is decent. As for his arms, he can spread them out that much. Now, of course, you can see the joint right there. It does move out, right? It is connected to his shoulder. He can move them up this way. He can swing all the way back. So that's pretty good. He does have bicep articulation right there, which is needed for figures like this. He has a single jointed articulation for his arms, which is at least 90 degrees. He does have swivel in his hands. And that's pretty much his arms. Now for his torso, it is pretty much just this rotation here on the bottom. So all you do is just rotate like this. There's no leaning forward or back because it is a Transformer figure. So that's as much as you're going to get from the torso. For his legs, he can do a full split. Look at that. It's pretty good. He can do that. He can also kick out pretty high up, actually. Wow, that's a pretty good kick right there. Right? He has single jointed in his legs. He also has, I believe, is there any rotation up top? No, there is a cut down here for his legs to rotate. So he does have that. And of course, he has articulation in the feet. As you can see, they can rock side to side. They cannot really like move back. So that is the unfortunate thing there. But articulation for this guy is decent. You can get him into some nice action poses if you get creative. So there is the articulation for Cheetor. And now let's move on to having his accessories equipped to him. So let's show him with both of these weapons equipped. They do fit into both hands, so you can have him holding his weapon in this sort of manner, right? You can do that. So he dual blades both of his spear-like weapons. And if you don't like this, what you can do is you can connect this little part right here to the bottom of that one, and then it will become a full spear. There you go. And now he has his entire spear weapon, which I think is pretty freaking sick. So very nice accessory to have. Pretty cool. I think this is pretty decent for what it is. And of course, since I did find this at Ross, $20 for a Voyager class is not a bad deal, especially with the prices of how much Transformer figures cost these days. You know, getting them for a lower price is always nice. Okay, and that's pretty much it for his accessory equipped to him. Let's have him compare to some other figures and see how he fits in with them. Let me just get him to stand because he doesn't want to stand for some reason. Come on, don't fall. Okay, there we go. So, of course, for the first figure that we are going to compare him to, it is the Optimus Prime from the Rise of the Beast movie. This is, of course, the Voyager class. And as you can see, he is taller than Cheetor. So even if his legs were standing straight, I think he's taller, right? Yes, he is taller than Cheetor. So there is that comparison. Here he is next to a deluxe class figure, Shadow Striker from Legacy Evolution. Of course, he is taller than a deluxe class. There is that comparison. Here he is next to Shockwave, if he ever did confront Shockwave. And as you can see, Shockwave is taller than him. And for the last comparison here is Cheetor next to Megatron. And Megatron is taller than Cheetor. So yeah, that's pretty much all the comparisons for today's review. And if you found today's review of Cheetor from the Studio Series line informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.